오늘 주신 우리 하나님 말씀 comes from book of Genesis chapter 34. We will read the last verse, verse 31 together. Shall we read it together? Ready? Go. But they replied, "Should he have treated our sister like a prostitute?" Maybe you're wondering, what is this about? We're in book of Genesis. We began our journey since the beginning of the year. We had book of John in the middle, and then we came back to book of Genesis, chapter 34. Book of Genesis chapter 34, we all know that it's about Dinah, one of the siblings in Jacob's family. 12 sons in there, and then Dinah is there. Dinah is a sister, and she got raped. After they settled down in a place called Shechem, she wanted to go outside and meet the daughters of this land, and then this happened. And the whole book of Genesis chapter 34, it's talking about that, and we're wondering, what's the purpose God putting this story in the Bible? What is He trying to teach us? What's the point? Whole book, we know book of Bible from the beginning to the end. All 66 books are all about God. We know that. It's not about people. It's not about any story, but it's about God. We know that, right? But Genesis 34, God doesn't appear. God doesn't say anything. God's name doesn't appear. There's no interaction. It's all about this story of Dinah who got raped, and then all these Canaan people come, and they wanted to, make a bargain here. We want to have your daughter as our daughter. We give our daughters to your families, and let's live together and all that. And then the sons of Jacob, they said, good idea, but we can't do that. It's too shame for us. Unless you go through circumcision, we can't accept you as family. If you do that, we'll definitely accept that. And then all these Shechem people, they love the idea because they're thinking, hey, once we get this going, they will come into our family. Our family is going to become bigger. We will own everything they own. And sons of Simeon, sons of Jacob, Simeon and Levi, they tricked them. And while they were in pain, on the third day, they attacked them in the nighttime, and then they just killed all the men there, and then they brought everything from their home. What story do you get? What do you get about God? And every time I prepare a message, I spend quite a long time thinking about who is God like in this chapter. I ponder a long time. Is God saying, okay, rape is sin? Is that the point? Or retaliate, or revenge, making revenge, that's sin too. Is that the point God is trying to tell us or teach us? I couldn't find much. So I read from chapter 33, chapter 34, chapter 35, trying to find out what's the message here. And I saw actually bigger picture. Instead of zooming in to find the point, I actually zoomed out, and then I tried to see the big picture. Then I was able to see, okay, this is the point God is trying to show us. Let me go back to chapter 28. When Jacob was running to his uncle's house, God met him, and on the way, he said, Jacob, I'm going to bring you home. I'm going to bring you back here. I'm going to walk with you. I will protect you. I'll guide you. I'll be blessing you. And that's the promise he did. And Jacob went to his uncle's house. He lived there for 20 years, 7 years for the first daughter, 7 years for the second daughter, and 6 more years. And he gained a whole lot of blessings that God has given him. And he is coming home on his way. But all these times, God said, I want you to come home. I want you to return. You know, every time God said, I want you to return, you know what that meant? It's Canaan, but then it is the place called Bethel. Why am I saying that? Chapter 35, this is how it begins. Then God said to Jacob, go up to Bethel and settle there and build an altar there to God who appeared to you when you were fleeing from your brother Esau. Now he's reminding Jacob and telling him to go to Bethel. Now Jacob was on his way to Bethel, but then what happened in chapter 33? After he met Esau, this is what he did. After Jacob came from Patan Aram, he arrived safely at the city of Shechem and Canaan and camped within sight of the city. For 100 pieces of silver, he bought from the sons of Hamor, the fathers of Shechem, the plot of ground where he pitched his tent. He bought the land on his way to Bethel. His final destination is Bethel, but then he bought the land at Shechem. What does that mean to you? Do you buy the house on your journey to somewhere? You don't. You bought a house, and you bought a house to settle there. And chapter 35 actually tells us when God did not appear at all in chapter 34, chapter 35, he appears and he tells Jacob, I want you to go to Bethel. I want you to settle there. And then he is telling him the message. I want you to worship me there. That's the final destination. Now, chapter 34, that means chapter 34 all happened because Jacob and his family was on his way to final destination called Bethel, but then he didn't get there. He looked at Shechem. Shechem is a much better place. Bethel is more hilly and rocky place, and Shechem is more green, more flat land, more people here, more business, more future, more of all the good things that you see from your physical eyes. You see this is where success is going to be. So you want to have your family all grow up here, expand here, and probably that's why he bought the land and he's settling down right there. But then chapter 34, this is how it begins. Jacob's daughter Dinah went outside to meet the daughters of the land. This land is what? This is the land of Canaan, pagan. And when she went out there to meet the daughters, what do you think she wanted to do? Maybe just simple idea of social time. I want to have good social time. I want to meet the daughters of this land. Maybe that's just naive idea. But then when she went out there, the Shechem is the captain, is the leader of this whole Shechem land. This place is called Shechem. The leader's son is Shechem, and leader's father is Hamor. And leader's son looked at this daughter Dinah, and then she took her home and she raped her. And when I was reading this on and on, like, what's going on here? It looked like God is saying, okay, maybe you want to settle down right here, but then I want you to know what you're actually doing. You are not going with me. Going to final destination with me is my plan. But then you went on with your own plan and you just settled down at Shechem. Yeah, it looks good. Maybe you'll get all the good things the world will provide you. But then this is how the world is gonna look at you. Like Shechem was looking at Dinah and take her home, raping her, and then And then it's bigger thing. So from that time on, I was able to say, okay, this is much greater picture. This is much greater picture than Dinah getting raped here. This is much bigger. Why? Because it puts Jacob and all his family in big danger. Why? Because remember Abraham. Abraham wanted to have his son married to not pagan from this land, but from homeland. So he sends his servant home, far land, like 400 miles away, and he brings Rebekah home. So Isaac can get married and continue the line of promise that God has given Abraham. And from Abraham, Isaac, and now to Jacob. That's how it's supposed to go. But then Jacob, the time he actually settled down in Shechem, and then daughters going out, and sons are actually living around here, trying to make social life here, and actually going in here. Dinah got raped, and the Shechem comes, and then the father Hamor comes. You know what they said? They said, okay, your daughter, Jacob already heard the news. His daughter Dinah got raped. And Dinah is still there in their house. And Hamor and Shechem comes, and this is what they said. Oh, let's make some kind of, let's join together. That's the kind of idea. It was not like, hey, we're so sorry, it just happened. My son loves your daughter so much. It just happened. It's nothing like that. There's no explanation at all. There's no sorry at all. He comes and he says, hey, let's join together. You give us your daughters, we give your daughters. Hey, we do business together, and we live together. You come into my land, we live together, and we do everything together. Does this sound all right? Jacob actually doesn't do anything. He knows all about it, but he kept very silent. That was actually my first question. If I were to be Jacob, would I be silent knowing that my daughter is captured in the pagan land and she got raped? I'd be furious, right? And then when these two come, before you make any kind of treaty, I'll say, where's my daughter? I want to see my daughter first. Bring my daughter home safely first, and then we'll talk. That's the kind of the fathering, isn't it? That's the right fathering. But I don't see any of those happening in Jacob's life. Jacob is just silent until his sons come home. And they got angry and they got really grieved. All these things, I want you to see. This is what's happening. God is showing you went into the pagan land. Of course, promised land I gave you, but it's not the final destination. Living right in here, buying the land and settling down, this is what it's going to be like. All these people around you, and they will make business with you. You're going to go in there. You're going to socialize with them. And you're going to marry their daughters, and they're going to marry your sons. And this is actually going to happen. And you're not going to be promised people anymore. You're going to lose your identity. You're going to lose your relationship with me. It's much greater picture than that. God is actually showing him at all. God is not visible at all. Chapter 34, God is not there anymore. God doesn't show his voice. He doesn't talk. He doesn't do anything. Chapter 35. After all these happen, all these heartaches, so much pain, so much murder, all that happened. And then God appears. Israel, Jacob's family, all his descendants, the next generation, and God's promised people, these people are all in danger. Not just Dinah, not just Jacob's family. It's the lineage of Jesus Christ in danger. You see that? That's what was happening. And God, I saw, he's just letting them experience all that, go through all that pain. And I was very amazed. If I were to be God, I would say, Jacob, see, I told you. I told you to go to Bethel. I told you to go there. That's the final destination. You didn't ask me anything. And when your daughter got raped, you didn't come to me. Your family didn't have any meeting in the presence of me. You didn't want to get any directions from me. You didn't do anything. I'll probably say that if I were to be God. But But God did not scold him at all. God was very silent. And after all these happened, he comes in chapter 35. This is what he says. God said to Jacob, go up to Bethel and settle there, and build an altar there to God, who appeared to you when you were fleeing from your brother Esau. So Jacob said to his household and to all who were with him, I have learned something very valuable here. A lot of times, because I am Korean too, I lived here more than half of my life, right, in America, but I'm still Korean. I have Korean blood. When my kids do something wrong, I have this urge to raise my voice and da 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 da, right? That's something I want to do. Thinking that if I raise my voice and scold them, boom, they're going to listen and they're going to change their lives. I was very wrong. I was very wrong. It doesn't happen. Even if you raise your voice and you really come big on them, they're not going to change them. But here, God keeps very silent. And then he redirects them. He reminds Jacob, your final destination is Bethel. I want you to go there. Settle there. And then worship me there. God doesn't throw relationship away. God doesn't throw away Jacob. God doesn't just, give up on that relationship. But he comes back and he reminds him. That's how he builds. That's how he makes disciples. That's how he helps us to grow. If he were to be like me, I'll scold them and then I scold them 5 times and you don't listen, I'll just go. You're done. He doesn't do it that way. He waits. He touches much deeper. Of course, he's the only one probably see how grand this problem is. But actually, he goes there in great patience. Second thing he did here is helping Jacob to realize how living in the pagan land and actually being absorbed through the pagan gods, so dangerous. He knows that. And God taught him through long duration. And this is what Jacob says. That's how I learned, by looking at what Jacob was saying. When God said, go to Bethel, and then he is saying, okay, at that moment, he turned to his family, household. This is what he said. To all who were there, get rid of the foreign gods. First thing he did, when he heard, okay, go to Bethel, settle there, and then worship me, then first thing he told his people, okay, Jacob has learned that, wow, this is idol problem. This is pagan god problem. This is how we are not only losing our identity as God's covenant people, but actually we're losing our relationship with God. That came into his heart. He learned it after so many years, after he going down to his uncle's house, living there, coming back home, long journey. He had learned that. He said, get rid of all the foreign gods. Then let us go to Bethel, where I will build an altar to God, who answered me in the day of my distress and who has been with me whenever I have gone. This is amazing. This is precious for God's people to not only just pushed by people and do whatever other people tell me, but in his heart, he understood, wow, this is dangerous, way more dangerous than this problem Dina went through and my family went through. This is grand scale, and it has to be pure and clean. Look at verse 4. So they gave Jacob all the foreign gods and then the rings in their ears, and Jacob buried them under the oak at Shechem. If verse 4 tells me not only Dinah, not just the Dinah alone was actually influenced by the pagan society, but whole family was influenced. That's why all these people, they brought their earrings, their jewelries, all these things touched by the pagan things. And Jacob buried them under the tree, and they started their new journey. Last thing I want to share, one more thing, and then I'll stop. Then they set out, and the terror of God fell on the towns all around them, so that no one pursued them. This is exactly the fear Jacob had. That's why he was, even though he knows he is the head of the family, and he knows that he has to act in a spiritual leader way, but then he was completely, quiet, silent. Why? Because he was just pressed down with the fear. That's what end of chapter 34, when Jacob was actually screaming at his sons. That's what he said. Then Jacob said to Simeon and Levi, "You have brought trouble on me by making me obnoxious to the Canaanites and Perizzites, the people living in this land. We are few in number, and if they join forces against me and attack me, I and my household will be destroyed." He was so pressed down with the fear that this whole Canaan people, they are much, much greater than, in number, greater than his own family. Okay, I'm in big trouble now. This is not just my family against your family, but this is going to be against the whole Canaanite pagan people, and they're going to come attack me. That was the greatest fear. But God is an amazing God. God knew that. Jacob didn't even say a word, ask God, plead, ask God, and Lord, help me. I'm just pressed under this fear. He didn't say anything, but God knew that. Verse 5, then they set out, and the terror of God fell on the towns all around them, so that no one pursued them. Pay attention to the word terror. When you are going on your trek with the Lord to Bethel,